It's actually happening. It's here. My 18th dark auction, boys. Oh my days.
It's happening, boys. 18 million. 32 million.
50. Okay, I'm on. 9, 8, 7. Come on.
The Midas sword was added to Hypixel Skyblock alongside the 0.5 update on the 2nd of July 2019. The update featured a completely overhauled fishing system and, of course, the Dark Auction, a special area where only the richest of players and people in Hard and Diamond would gather to bid on exclusive new items. One of these would stand far above the rest, however. This, of course, being the highly coveted Midas sword. What made it so special was its signature ability Greed, buffing its strength and damage depending on how much you bid on it, with its maximum potential being reached at a bid of 50 million coins. With such a high price tag, it was supposed to be the best of the best, the creme de la crop. But in reality, it was more like a pile de la dog shit. In fact, the stats I've been showing you thus far are all a lie. Upon release, the Midas sword wasn't even legendary, it was epic, and the maximum damage and strength bonus were both 40 points lower than they are now. Meaning that, well, you know.
Yeah, nobody loves you, Midas sword. Stop wasting our time.
This luckily didn't last very long, as only 1 week later, the Midas sword would receive the buffs it needed to firmly solidify itself as the strongest sword in all of Skyblock. And it did.
Oh, that is so worth it. Oh, that is beautiful.
Like, I had seen someone at one point get like 45,000. This is literally like 10 times their health.
Having a Midas sword with a bid of 50 million coins or above, commonly called a 50 mil Midas, was a form of prestige the game never knew until that point. Everyone wanted one, and one of the first to get it would be none other than Time Dio.
50 million. Oh my god, my heart's racing, thank goodness.
The thing is, even though Dio got it very early on, it took until the 22nd of August 2019 for this to happen, which really shows just how much 50 million coins were worth at the time. And even if you had the coins, it wasn't guaranteed to be present at the Dark Auction. Not to mention the Dark Auctions were so highly contested that getting in one could sometimes be a challenge in and of itself.
Are you joking? Again?
But it really was the holy grail of Skyblock. Even the end update's shiny new aspect of the dragons paled in comparison. This is where the era of the Midas sword truly began. But there was one problem. This is from a time when Skyblock was very primitive. There was no Crimson Isle, no Voidgloom Slayer, no dungeons, no nothing. The only combat challenges in the game were Zealots, which the vast majority of players one-shot with weaker swords anyways, Dragons, which were primarily bow spam, and, I guess sea creatures? I don't know. My point is that there wasn't much use for a weapon as powerful as the Midas sword. October's Slayer update didn't really help either. While it introduced the free main Slayers, which were very challenging at the time, it also featured swords made specifically to counter them. And of course, these were just straight up better than a Midas against their respective bosses.
Nothing ever really prepared me for just how trash it is compared to the Slayer specific swords. There is just no competition, so...
Nevertheless, its spot as the overall best sword in the game was still uncontested. And it seemed like it stayed that way forever.
Oh, Tiger Pet, level 36. Alright. I just got it! We just got it! One with the dragon. It buffs the aspect of the dragon sword by 50 damage and 30 strength. That makes it better than a Midas. That is not even a joke.
At first, pets in Skyblock were more of a nice little meme, I mean, look at this one. Why is the horse slower than me? But come February 21st, 2020, they went all in by adding a roster of 26 new pets into the game. These range from skill-oriented pets to combat pets, and even stuff I'd rather go without ever seeing. But it was clear from day one that one of them stood out in a big way, that being the legendary Ender Dragon. And while its best perk is undoubtedly superior, increasing all stats by 10%, what's relevant to our story today is One with the Dragons, which gives a massive boost to the aspect of the dragons, making it objectively better than the Midas sword, even if only barely. And so, that's how the Midas sword was finally dethroned. Or was it? Turns out the Ender Dragon wasn't exactly cheap, with the epic one costing around 150 million and the legendary way more. This meant that while the richest of players would make the switch over to the AOTD, the Midas sword still remained king among weapons overall, and owning one was given more merit than ever before when Endstone protectors were added to the end a few months after. Everything was looking great for the Midas sword, until July 7th, 2020.
The Dungeons update.
Oh my days.
Oh no.
He has
Oh my
dragon sword.
days.
He has an aspect of the dragon sword.
So what happened? What's happening? What's happening?
Now, this is randomly generated, so like, you probably never see this combination again.
The Dungeons update was without a doubt one of the most influential updates in Skyblock history, and immediately posed the hardest combat challenges players had to overcome up till now. Initially, however, it only featured the first 3 floors, and while the Midas sword wasn't particularly good, due to requiring a stupidly high catacombs level to use if dungeonized, it did receive a nice birthday present from the admins, King Midas. Starting at floor 3, there's a small chance for a King Midas room to spawn, and among his drops, or rather his only drop, was the Midas Jewel, a new, extremely powerful reforged stone that could only be applied to the Midas sword, giving it 75 extra damage and strength if legendary, and a whopping 90 if mythic, finally making it better than the aspect of the dragon. Oh, it still does less damage, huh? Okay. But hey, it was something at least, and the Dungeons update seemed to have a positive impact on the Midas sword overall. But what if I told you that a little over 2 months later, the Midas sword would become completely useless?
Two days ago, Hypixel Skyblock released Floor 5 of the Catacombs, and
I know this weapon is even better than the Gilded Midas swords. As you can see in my hand, I have a fabled Shadow Fury, and this thing is genuinely ridiculous.
There's so much new stuff, man. What is the point in having a Midas?
September's Floor 5 update introduced 2 prominent new swords that would shake up the meta once more, the Livid Dagger and the Shadow Fury. The former offered maximum crit chance and attack speed, alongside admirable damage, and excelled in DPS, while the latter was a one-shot fiend, outdamaging both the Midas and even the Ender Dragon pet buffed aspect of the dragons. This was the start of the Shadow Fury dynasty, which lasted for a grand total of 2 weeks, as on October 1st, 2020, the even bigger and badder Giant Sword was added, outdamaging both the Shadow Fury and consequently the Midas sword by a long shot. Okay, but this isn't actually that bad, right? Sure, the Midas sword isn't the best anymore, but it can now serve as a solid mid-game weapon. No? No, not at all. The inherent issue of the Midas sword is that its price cannot adapt, since it's effectively an item bought from an NPC. Someone must pay the full 50 racks, and surprise surprise, the Livid Dagger, Shadow Fury, and even the Giant Sword at the time were all cheaper than 50 million coins, resulting in the Midas Sword becoming completely useless, practically overnight. This is the exact opposite of what happened to the aspect of the dragons, going from a fantastic late game weapon in 2019 to a fantastic early game weapon in 2022, just by being able to drop in price. But finally, in July 2021, a miracle happened. The incredible Golden Dragon was added to the game, which among other buffs gives all golden weapons an additional 100 strength. And finally, after all this time, through all the meta shifts, The Midas reclaimed its title as the best. Nah, I'm just kidding, it still sucked. But hey, at least it was finally better than the aspect of the dragons. Too bad no one cared though. While the Midas sword's fall from grace was very abrupt and tragic, its impact on the game is indisputable, inspiring a dungeon enemy, the Midas staff, the golden dragon. I mean, there's even a YouTuber with the same name. Will it ever be good again? No. Well, probably at least. But maybe, just maybe, the admins decide so. And if that happens, well, it'd be pretty damn cool to see. Wow, look at you! You got to the end of the video! And you know what that means. A little click on the red button, a little click on the like button, and you're all good! No, but seriously, this video took like a billion hours. Please do it. I need to feed my cat.